Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and as promised, here is part 2 of the Q&A, part 2 of ship updates, dealing once again with the Hurricane, and let's just dive right into it. So question 1 of part 2 is a little bit of a confrontational question, which kind of surprising, but so faster than nimble, but only a single size 2 engine means that it's damn slow. You know, basically, the way the stats are looking, you could almost think that in some ways this person's saying that it would almost look like a capital ship could outturn the Hurricane. Well, that's not the case, and this is something that has cropped up many times before. And the fact is, some ships are using old values, some ships are using new values. Items are being kind of moved around and changed, and their values changed. And so a lot of these, like when you see size 1, size 2, size 3, it's not always indicative of what you can interpret the performance to be, because not only could there be a wide variance in performance in different areas for each size of a component, but a lot of these values are somewhat, some of them are the old values, some are the new values, like the old and the new cargo system. One ship says it has 360 cubic meters, the next ship says it has over 2,000, yet they're almost the same size. What gives? And this is, until all these figures get solidified, this is going to be something that comes up time and time again. So overall, it's got about the same size engine as a Hornet, but it saves weight on the Hornet, so you might see performance increases there. But once again, there's so much room to maneuver with even just these basic size classifications that just going by size itself may not be indicative of the final product. So that's something to bear in mind when looking at, basically any ship sale. Now, question 2, because so many of the ship components are small, is there the possibility of this being a stealth fighter? And the answer is, well, they call it an interesting idea, but when you look at something like a Saber, the stealth is implied by the way it's constructed by the ship itself, and so everything kind of builds into that. Now, they're not saying that you can't take a Hurricane and make it very sneaky and make it very stealthy, but it's going to be more a question of your skill at controlling your ship's signatures, your EM, your thermal signatures. It's going to be more a question of that than just the natural intrinsic ability of the ship, which is something that the Saber would have, but that the Hurricane wouldn't. All right, question 3, how many Hurricanes will fit in the hangar bays of a capital ship? It's about the same size as a Hornet or a Gladiator, so however many Hornets or Gladiators that ship can fit, that's how many Hurricanes it can fit, roughly. Question 4 seems to deal with the number of engines and maneuvering thrusters on the ship, because obviously you have the 2 exhaust ports on the ship. It's still going to be 1 engine firing out of 2 exhaust ports. It's going to have 8 MAVs and 2 retro thrusters, so that's pretty much how it's configured. All right, question 5. What does glass cannon or glass hammer mean with regards to the Hurricane? I think we can just kind of go ahead and skip over that one. Oh my God. All right, question 6. The Hornet line allows you modularity, swap out the turret, all these different components that you can put on. Can you do the same thing with the Hurricane, basically? Well, that's the basic premise of the Hornet, is the Hornet can be adapted to multiple roles in multiple different applications. The Hurricane is purpose-built to deliver high damage. That's where it's aimed at. That's what it's built for. So don't expect to be able to create any kind of Frankenstein ship out of this. It is what it is. It is what you're seeing and what is being presented to you. And anything else, probably very unlikely that you'll be able to achieve it. The platform is just not built for adaptability. The platform is built to a purpose. Now, question 7. This one was a bit of a head scratcher because, well, I'll just read the question. Can I exchange the man turret in the Hurricane with a single fixed weapon, like with the Hornet, with the flash fire mount? And the answer is unfortunately not. You can basically slave the ball turret controls, but you can't replace the ball turret, which flies in the face of the answer from question 3 of part 1 of the Anvil Hurricane Q&A, which was this. Now in part 1, question 3, they say, will there be a flash fire mount to replace the turret with an appropriate sized fixed mount? Are we able to change out the top turret for one large fixed gun? And they say the flash fire mount design is being revisited, but the Hurricane's turret was designed to fall in line with the newer turret remote gimbal system. The current direction is to limit the allowed size, where they're saying kind of size 4s or size 6s. So it's a little bit confusing. So we can fit 2 size 4s on the turret, but we can't replace the turret. So, yeah, basically they're saying that turret is staying, and you're going to be slaving the controls, and there's going to be no flash fire mount. The turret, as you see it, the turret it stays. So you're not going to be able to switch that out. But it was just a little confusing because it almost sounded, the first time I read through question 3, that they were allowing some type of flash fire mount and you could just get rid of the turret. But no, the turret is it's part of the ship. You can slave its controls, but you can't take it out entirely. All right, question 8. Will it be possible to have the turret controlled by an AI NPC? And if so, would this be penalized instead of yada, yada, yada? No, there's no penalty for putting an NPC in the turret, and you can do that. Probably better to have a live body in there, but in a jam, you can just put an NPC in that turret, and it should be fine. Now, question 9, will we be able to lock the manned turret into forward fire and have it usable by the pilot? Yes, but with the right equipment. So this was kind of in part 1 as well, where they were talking about kind of like putting a server blade into the system or adding a little piece to the avionics to allow you to do that. You can do it, but with a penalty, which actually I'll save that for the end when I kind of deliver my overall opinion of the ship. But yeah, so you can do it, but there's going to be like at least a component that you have to get in order to do that. Now, the final question is, what specific plans are there to improve manned turret usability? Currently, they are of no use at all, yada, yada, yada. We all know this. We've all been playing the game. And turrets are, they're terrible. So they're looking at fixing aiming stabilization, linking the ship's targeting computers to share aim and target information, things like this. But these are, once again, they're kind of, they're using ships like this and other ships that have turret mounts to kind of explore possible solutions. But this is something that's probably going to come well down the line when they actually come down to tackling this problem. So it's safe to say that turrets are going to be in this kind of quasi shit state for a little while yet. They do want to fix it. They are aware of the problem and they are acknowledging the problem, and that is something, once again, that's something that's important. When a game developer acknowledges the problem, at least they're saying, we are aware of it, we agree, and we plan to fix it. Or hopefully they say we plan to fix it. So there will be a fix for this, but it's in the future, and there's no firm information on how they intend to do it at this time. Now, final answer, final opinion. Will I be buying this ship? No. The reason being is that even though I do love the idea of a firepower focused ship, and something that emphasizes speed and firepower is very much something that I like, but the fact that 2/3 of that firepower is sitting in a turret, which at an added cost I can then control myself, you're jumping through too many hoops to get that one advantage when there are so many disadvantages to that ship. It's a good idea conceptually, but the execution is, frankly, I'm not a fan. So I understand what the developers are going for. I understand what their aim is, but by breaking up that firepower, by giving just 2 guns to the pilot and 4 to a gunner, it overcomplicates what is by design something that should be very simple. Simple in how it's executed, simple in how it's used. You know, it overcomplicates things. Now, to give you a different idea, like what would have sold this ship to me? If this ship had like this, all 6 guns mounted into the fuselage around that gap in the nose, sort of like the F-86 Sabre you can see here. If the guns had been arranged that way, instant sale. Instant sale. I would have been all aboard. But the way it is now, it's middling, so I'm not interested. Basically, the idea is good, but the execution is muddled and overcomplicated. So no, I won't be getting one of these ships. That's it for this episode of Ship Updates. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Quantum travel initiated.